Hey friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and this video probably isn't about what you think it might be about. It is not about dry adhesive tape. Well, not really. If you are anything like me, you might have a lot of these rolls of tape, and I get them in multiple different sizes. And in fact, I'm running low, but one of the things that I do get is like a multi-pack which has multiple different widths. I get it right off of Amazon. Usually comes, I think, something like that. And then separately, I get these, which are really thin, like 1/8 inch, and I get that in a separate pack. And then, of course, I love my score tape, the Sukwang score tape for my mini albums. So I get those in various widths. This is probably my favorite width, but if I'm doing, like the covers and whatnot, I do like the wider roll because the wider a roll is, my guess is, they start with a wide roll and then they just cut it down to make these smaller ones. So the less that they have to touch a product before it gets packaged into your hands, the more cost effective it will be for you in terms of cost per square inch, for example. So I do like the larger roll. Plus, it's faster, to cover album covers and whatnot. But I don't really have anything by way of storage or by way of dispensing these tapes. They really just sit around like this in a drawer, like right on top of each other. Sometimes maybe they're like this right next to each other. I just found one just randomly off to the side. I guess I was trying to quickly clean up my filming area and just tossed it to one side. And so I didn't really give it much of a second thought until Jennifer reached out to me. She is the owner of One Stop Apothecary shop. And she asked me if I would like to review some products that she and I think her husband together run this online shop, and they create 3D printed products, organizational tools, holders, things like that. And I really love supporting small business. It's hard, starting a business, and it takes a lot of wearing multiple hats. It takes a lot of persistence and so I'm always happy to help small business owners. And so I said yes. I've never heard of her store before, so I do want to let you know. And I don't personally know her, but I welcome anybody who is trying to start something. I do try to, as much as I can, support in the ways that I can. And so I said, sure, I would be happy to try out your products. Feel free to send me what you'd like. So I received some goodies that I'll show you now. So one of them is a tape dispenser. I think this is she does them in multiple sizes, and I think this is the small one. I believe, just from looking at the product photos, there is a large one that looks like it might actually hold this roll of score tape, which is 5 inches. Yeah. So this is 5 inches. So when I look at her product page, it kind of looks like she has something equivalent. It's from the brand that she is showing in her product photos is a roll of scrapbook.com tape, but I assume that it will fit this. And so there are different sizes available. So if you are interested in any of this, I'll leave links. They will be affiliate links. She does have an affiliate program, so I'll share my affiliate link. And but what I've got here in front of me is what I believe the small version. And the small version is really nice. I do love that there are, these individual compartments almost, dividers for your different width tapes. And particularly because I actually buy my tapes, in multi-packs, in multiple width packs. And so that works out really well for the products that I have and use in my stash. So, let's see, it measures 6 inches by 3 inches by 4 inches is what the product listing says, but let's measure for ourselves. So if I measure from one end to the next, I would actually say this measures 6.25. If I go from this end to, okay, maybe not 6.25, maybe 6 1/8, maybe. So let's see if that's actually fair. It might be closer to 6 inches. Yeah. Okay, so it is, when I go like this, just so that it's nice and level at the bottom, it is a good 6 inches. And then in terms of the height, just shy of 4.5. I would say 4 7/8. The listing says it's 4 inches high, so I think that's a little bit off. And then in terms of the width, it's 3 and maybe 1/16. The listing says 3 inches, but I think that's kind of close enough. And you saw this fall out. It's meant to, because this is kind of what keeps, there aren't instructions. And so this is my first look at this video. I don't have instructions. I'm just being guided by what feels right and what I'm seeing in the product photos. So I have to say, it feels nice. It's been 3D printed, but it feels pretty solid. It's not super heavy. I love this. Like, it matches my glassboard accessories so well. So kind of loving that. Now, what you're meant to do, I believe, is, let's see what we can get going here. Okay, so I think this is going to be cool. It's going to help me really use my tapes up a lot faster, that's for sure. Because I'm kind of one of those people where sometimes if it's out of sight, it's sort of out of mind. So what you want to do is you want to put this through, because it's got to hang on something. So you want to put your tape through there. And so now it has something that keeps it in place, so that you can just pull tape off. And there's various widths, so you can just feed multiples of these through. And let's get one more size there. And then my super thin one, I could probably fit 2 of those in that last compartment. And I know I have 2 going. Oh, here's one thing I would probably make sure of, is that your tape is all kind of going the same way. So you want all of your tape so that you can pull it out the same direction. See, this is what happens when I just put it, I don't know if you guys can see this. I just toss this here and there, and then look what's happened. It's kind of crumpled a little bit and gotten a little bit, off the rails. But in theory, having it in a holder, in a dispenser like this, will keep it well formed. Okay. So I've got all of my tape in the same direction, so they're going to be pulled in the same direction. And then I just need to set this in, and there we have it. This might be a little bit tight for 2, so let's see. Maybe what I'll do, just to get, now what I would say is, this is a little bit hard to get out. I guess you kind of have to use one of the rolls of tape to get the this back out. Now what I want to do is try to get this to comfortably glide. So we'll get 2 into this compartment. See how that works. I mean, I'm just trying to get more rolls of tape onto this. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'll be nice. These two are on the same, like in the same slot. I mean, it says you can fit 4, but really it just depends on what you can, what width your tapes are. And if you can fit 2 on a single one, all the better. Now, one thing that I will say though is that if you're using this, let's say, you've got it like that, so that it's just ready to go. That's how it's pictured in the product photos. I don't know necessarily that I will use it this way, because what you're doing by having exposed adhesive like this is all of that, this stretch right here, that's like a good 2-inch stretch, maybe 2.5, maybe 3-inch stretch that's being exposed to air. Dry adhesive, if you don't already know, it's not a permanent adhesive, and it can actually lose its adhesive strength over time, because it can dry out over time. And that's why I'm like a broken record about this stuff. Whenever you see me using a dry adhesive tape, well, when you see me using any kind of adhesive, I always burnish for multiple reasons. But in the case of a dry adhesive, it helps to push as much air out as possible, so that you don't have air trapped between the two things that you're trying to glue together. And having any air in between, your adhesive and your substrates can ultimately dry out that adhesive, and then your projects can fall apart. Now, in the case of a card, maybe that's not the biggest deal at the end of the day. I give out a lot of cards. I put a lot of time and effort into my cards, but honestly, I don't mind if somebody enjoys it in the moment and then tosses it. It's totally fine with me. I don't feel offended by that at all. And so knowing that, maybe it's okay, in the case of cards, but there are some cards and there are some individuals who I know will keep a card for years even, because they, appreciate, recognize, the work, the effort, the love that went into it. And you want for those cards to hold up over time. And so the best thing that you can do is to ensure that the adhesives that you're using are good quality, and that the way that you're using them will maximize their strength. And so I don't particularly love the idea of, and this doesn't roll super smoothly. Maybe I shouldn't be greedy and try for two rolls of tape in one. Oh, you know what? The reason why it's a little bit weird there is because I put the roll that's got a little bit janky, misformed. Maybe if I try to put a thinner roll. Or I could just try to stick to just the 4 rolls of tape. So I would definitely, I would definitely use this as a holder, and it definitely will help dispense, just being, just the nature of it being, yeah, that's much better, how it is. But I don't think I would leave a lead, because you're just leaving too much exposed there. And however, I'm going to caveat that if you're like me though, and you tend to use dry adhesive in combination with liquid adhesive, maybe that's not the end of the world. Because if you're always using some liquid adhesive for that permanence, then no problem. So bear that in mind. Like, use it the way that you feel, is optimal for what your application is. The other thing that Jennifer sent me that actually goes with this dispenser is, this is the adapter. And this is actually pretty cool. They say that it's primarily a cosmetic upgrade, but I'll be honest, I think there's a practical there's some practicality to this, but essentially what it is it does kind of clip on here. And so if you were to pull out a lead, for example, it can rest against here, and possibly you can tear against it. So I do feel like that's a nice little add-on, because I think it's not that it's impossible, it's just a little harder to tear against this edge. Like, kind of, you know. Okay, well, it seems very hard to do that. I'm not able to, not with this thin one anyhow. So there is that aspect to it. And so you can easily definitely easily tear against it, which I would say that's not just a cosmetic upgrade. I would say that's actually functional. That's a practical functional upgrade. So you can get that. It's separate. It's two separate purchases, two separate products. One thing that I would maybe play with is, what if I can bring the lead like this? So what I would be tempted to do is, and it may not look pretty, but I'm kind of tempted to see, can I actually, the first thing I thought of was duct tape. Can I duct tape this so that the adapter actually sits up here? No, it's sitting there on its own, but there's nothing that really locks it in. It could very easily slide down. But maybe there's some, I don't want to do anything permanent. But I do want to play with the idea of, how can I affix this so that it's more up here, and then look what happens. See, I can put a lead here, but it's kind of, touching this adapter. And so it's not touching air, it's touching something. That's going to take a little bit of the adhesive strength away, but it's not going to just dry out, completely. Plus, even if it does, that's only like a ½ inch or so. So I'm not exposing 2-3 inches of adhesive to air. So that would be my, I'm going to play with that. I'm going to see if that is something that I can do. Now, I'm going to be really honest, which, Jennifer, I hope you knew. I'm just, my reviews are my reviews. They're not, I'm not swayed by the fact that I do get these things for free sometimes. And, so I'm just say it as it is, but I am not inclined to put my expensive Sukwing score tape in here, because this is strong stuff. When I use my score tape, I use my score tape because I want the best quality dry adhesive. I want the strongest dry adhesive tape I have, and that is this. And so I'll use it in here just for the sake of having it on here, but I would never pull off a lead to in this fashion, and certainly not like this, because I feel like I would be exposing way too much of this expensive tape to air, having it dry out possibly before I can even get to using it, to be quite frank. If you're using the tapes like a lot, regularly, every day, etc., this doesn't really matter too much, because you're going to be using it so fast anyways. But I use a variety of different adhesives for a variety of different applications, and I don't always reach for this all the time. So I don't want tape sitting around like this for any longer than, I don't know, 12 hours even. And so I'm not likely to use my score tape in here the way that the product listing suggests, in the sense of like leaving a lead off here. But I will say that this is kind of handy, just the sake of having it on this roll and having it really easy to pull tape off and tear tape off against the adapter. So even if I left all of my tape like this is way more organized than the system I had going on. and it's way more convenient to use as well. So if I were to hang my souk wing or score tape on something like this, it would be like this. I wouldn't have a lead that's pulled off and resting against the bottom here. But I like it. It's not, the small size is not too bulky. It fits. I usually have that many rolls and then some, couple more, going at any particular time. So that's the perfect, this is a good size for me. It's, and it fits all of the various different widths, tapes that I tend to use. So I really like it, and I'm gonna use it over time, and see how, like, in practice, how much I like it. I'll see what I can do about this, if I can find a non-permanent way to affix this, also so that it's like sturdy, and I can really, take a piece of tape and really tear against it and have it not, drop down on me. So we'll see what I can come up with there. But first impressions are, I do like it. I do love the teal. It's like a really fabulous match with my glassboard studio accessories, which I absolutely love. So that's the first couple of things that Jennifer sent to me. And then she sent me this as well. I think I know what this is, but it is wrapped, so I haven't yet seen it. And this is, yay! So this is this, oh, that's nice. This is a brush holder, and I think Jennifer told me this, it's been designed specifically for the Altenew brushes. So let me make sure that I'm saying the right things here. She does have the Tim Holtz blending brush holders and his ink blending tool holders. Really great selection of things that she's got. So yes, this is for the Altenew blending brushes, which I do have. These are such good blending brushes, by the way. The ones that I have are actually from those kits that they have. I don't know if they still do them, but they've made I bought a bunch of them, and so I think I have a few more, but I don't know where they are. They might still be in their little kit bags, but they are really great. The brush is soft, but it's also short, so it's pretty stiff. Now, I do have brushes from a variety of different brands. So, interestingly, they are all rounded at the bottom. Now, I don't know if this is like white labeled brushes, so, but they're all a little bit different. The Altenew ones are unique in that they are flat at the bottom, and the holder being specifically designed for Altenew brushes, it does fit rather perfectly. On the bottom, there are these little sort of silicone feet, so that I think that's kind of smart, so that if you're using this, for blending, especially if you're on like a glassboard mat like I am, this won't slip and slide on you. Like, this is gonna slide around. But if you're putting out the brushes that you're going to be using for your project, it is kind of nice that there's like a non-slip little feet on there. But will it fit other things? It won't. Because these are flat, it fits really well in there, even though the depth of these these little compartments. It's pretty shallow. It's maybe half an inch, maybe a little bit more. So because this is rounded, it doesn't really fit in there. And not only is it rounded, it's also not as wide around. This is the Trinity Sidekick blending brush, so that doesn't fit. Yeah, none of my other ones will fit. So if you are a big Altenew fan, you know, I think this works really well. You can see how sturdy. Like, you wouldn't think that it's sturdy in there given how much, the depth here. But it is. And that what's great about that is that it's the low profile of it makes it really like a nice sleek, organizational tool. And so if you have extras of these, if you're just bringing them out while you're using a project, it's kind of nice that it's low profile. It makes these really easy to grab, and you don't have to kind of pull it out of this longer tube. So that is really nice. I will say though that it does seem very specific to Altenew. So if you tend to use lots of brands, no-name brands, your favorite craft brands, most of them are this style, and they will not work in that. So, I mean, I think there's an opening, there's a need there for you, Jennifer, and your husband. Maybe think about, can you create something universal that will hold any blending brush? Because I feel like this Altenew's blending brushes are a bit of I think they're a unique form factor. I see this way more often, as is evident by what I'm holding in my hands, and it's from multiple different craft companies, and so maybe creating something that's a little bit more universal. That could be something kind of interesting to explore. So that's the couple of things that One Stop Apothecary Shop sent to me. There's more. There are more things that Jennifer and her husband retail in their shop. So they do. They are a retailer of other brand stamps and dyes. They have inks and media supplies in embossing folders. They've got cardstock and papers and punches, lots and lots of things. Definitely check out their site if you like to support small business. Give them a browse, see if there's anything that catches your eye, and if you want, you can use my affiliate link. I'll leave that in the description box below. And big thank you to Jennifer and her husband for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to play with some of their 3D printed products. I think these are really innovative. They're well thought out, and they look quality made and sturdy. So I'm really gonna explore using this, especially if I can like adapt it the way that I described. And if they have suggestions for how I can adapt it to use it the way that I want to use it, please let me know. Because I do feel like this for me is like, I hate saying it's a game changer because that's so overloaded, that term, but I do feel like it's going to really improve my efficiency with using this, storing it, using it, and to be able to like use it in this way and keep like a little bit of a lead on here. And then that way I can just like rip the tape right against that. I would love that. So I'll explore some options. But Jennifer, if you're watching this and you or your husband have suggestions for how I can hack this, let me know. All right, links to everything in the description box below. And thanks for checking this out. And I do hope you'll give Jennifer's shop, the One Stop Apothecary shop, a browse. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.